we got to talk about these 19 games happening for Xbox Game Pass. Now, look, the story originally came the way of Ecstasies, who is a Spanish YouTuber. Ecstasies, I'm telling you folks, I know him personally. Not only is he a really, really good YouTuber, but the guy is connected. Whether you believe him, he doesn't put stuff out for clicks. He's not a click-based guy. He has an amazing, I've had him on the show, I think 3 times so far. I got to get him back on again. Gentleman of a YouTuber. Well, he originally broke the story that Microsoft was reportedly planning to add 19 new Xbox Game Pass titles in September. We're in September, right? Now, 17 of those were said to be day one releases. Now, this is where we kind of you got to read between the lines here with that. Because when they say day one releases, I don't necessarily think, Horkenstein, that they're just new games. Singularity has never been on Xbox Game Pass. Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 have never been on Xbox Game Pass. So and again, this is, I'm just trying to navigate this, think that might be what these day one releases mean. Now, could it mean all new titles? Yes, but it doesn't seem feasible to have that many new titles eating each other's lunch and spending all that money when they have all of these games awaiting a flip of a switch. Now, of course, I'm being a bit facetious. It's not a flip of a switch because Phil Spencer told us that. But we have been expecting, Korkenstein, all of these games. And one of the games that happened to be mentioned was, and again, I'm bringing up a Clobriel post. Now, Clobriel, phenomenal member of the community, like I just said moments ago. He says Singularity by Raven Software has received an Xbox Store relisting. And again, like we were saying in the beginning, Singularity is a game that a lot of people did not play, and I'm here to tell you that if it does get the HDR boost, it does get the FPS boost, it does get an up-res, this is a game that you're going to play. I guarantee you poll 100 people, at least half the people didn't play this game. They probably don't even know what it is. It is a phenomenal time-traveling type of game. One of Ravensoft's best works that nobody played. Let's specifically focus in on the 19 games and Singularity. I think this drop that's rumored to happen this month is exactly what many Xbox gamers have been asking for, and that are games like Prototype 2, Singularity, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Hell, we might even get lucky and get the Transformer games, both of those games back, the Cybertron games. And this is a stretch because I don't know where the Sony license goes. There were a couple of Spider-Man games that were really freaking good that opened up the Spider-Verse before the Spider-Verse even existed. Let's get your thoughts on that.
I think you're 100% hit the nail on the head. There's definitely, you have to read between the lines on this one. I think people that are kind of expecting, 17 games day one, brand new AAA releases, for 2024, I think, they're setting themselves up for disappointment. I think it's day one games that have never been on Xbox before. Like you said, Singularity. And I think that's where they're going with this. I mean, they really haven't announced that. That's all came from him. So there could also be maybe some reading between the lines there, or maybe he might be taking a little out of context. Who knows? But, Microsoft hasn't really came out and said these are going to be day one. So we're kind of, it's a sticky, slippery slope here with that. But if they are day one, I think you're 100%. It's going to be stuff that's never hit the Xbox ecosystem before, which is huge. And like you said, there's Spider-Man games, there's the Cybertron, there's a bunch of stuff that we could see coming up. And like I said, Singularity is a big one. I mean, that game was just massive because it was what is that Titanfall 2 level, cause and effect and cause, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just basically that was the whole game, and that was such a like massive level for everybody. It's like universally recognized as one of the greatest level designs that have come out, at least between the designers and stuff like that. So it's a solid game. And yeah, I just hope we're seeing more coming out, and it doesn't cost Xbox anything, to put it on Game Pass.
Yep.
If people, this is the joy that, or the benefit that Xbox doesn't have to worry about. You get a lot of people that port beg for these older games, but they maybe get 5% people buy-in, and it's like, at what point does that buy-in of spending money to get that to come to Game Pass really pay off for you? It's just a waste of money at that point. With Game Pass that they already own Activision, these are games that they could just bring in, and there really is no downside, other than just just having too much to play. So it's that's the thing. So I mean, who knows? But I do think we're going to get some pretty solid titles, and I think we're also be seeing some really cool stuff, maybe from some Japanese devs coming up at TGS. So who knows? It's going to be a pretty stacked kind of couple of months here.
You're not wrong. I mean, look, when you say reading between the lines, I'll say this about Clovriel. He very, very rarely gets it wrong. He is connected also. He doesn't come off as someone that's connected. And if you asked him personally, he'd be like, yeah, I don't know anybody. I'm just a guy that likes graphics. He's not. He's well connected. But there is something to be said about taking titles that have not been available in years. A perfect example of that. And again, I don't know where the licensing line in the sand, Fuzzy, is, but there was a particular game that people that not only it's beloved, but it is a game that a lot of people passed on, and that is Wolverine Origins. Now, Jamie Moran has been playing that game. That game is $100 on any of your services. Go to eBay, it's $100 game. Now, I have it. I beat it. I think I'm only missing one achievement from it. Actually, game was unbelievable. See, I don't know what exclusivity to the character Wolverine that Sony has. They obviously have a Wolverine game from Insomniac coming out, but these are older games. These are older Activision games. We know Marvel wants to work with Microsoft. We know that Hasbro wants to work with them. That's why we're probably getting the 2 Transformer games. And why anyone who appreciates older games should get excited here is, unlike PlayStation's older games in their services, which they do nothing. Like, you are getting literally the PlayStation 1 version of Ridge Racer with no enhancements. They do nothing to it. And no one says anything. No, everyone's like, oh, no, it's a better service. Trust me, PlayStation Plus is not better. It's not better for the value, and it's certainly not better for the games that they add, because if you are someone like me who does not mind playing through an Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 for like the 30th time, because I beat those games so many times it was ridiculous, but there are phenomenal games. Prototype is a game that should exist but currently doesn't. Transformers, both the Cybertron games, are incredible pieces of Transformer gaming that a lot of people missed on. This is an opportunity to get these games in. And listen, we did hear, I mean, Sarah Bond said it herself, Fuzzy, that they are working on making sure both backward and forward compatibility is a thing. They knew they were getting Activision. They knew that they were going to have to bring back the team to get these games over to work on the current Xbox console. I think that we could be in for something special here. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been waiting as far as for the Activision drop to happen, but I think it's now a matter of time, because there was some behind the scenes stuff that they had to work on to be able to get everything listed in the stores. And considering how BattleNet is and some of the issues that we've even seen between those that like to play on both console and PC, it has some things that it still needs to kind of work out, or that hopefully they'll have worked out by the time the Black Ops 6 launches. But when it comes to like some of their older titles, their previous license IP stuff, as well as their own internal IPs, I think a lot of people were sad when we heard that, you know, they couldn't, or the Jason Ronald's team, as far as working on like up-resing some of the games, doing the uncapped frame rate or like frame boost, the HDR and things along those lines. I'm pretty sure they've been kind of working behind the scenes as well on some of these titles, because before it was a matter of if the owner or the publisher of the game would sign off on it. And unfortunately, Activision was one of those that they were probably thinking long term that they would just resell those games, kind of like the way Rockstar did with the trilogy kind of thing. But I think at this point that a lot of those games that have been talked about are going to wind up being here soon. But you know, some of these IPs, hopefully people revisit them, enjoy them, make comments to, you know, Microsoft or Xbox executives to the point where they invest in making new versions or updated or continuations of some of these series. Because something like Prototype being your own built-in, superhero kind of, or anti-hero kind of game would be an awesome thing for Xbox to have in its catalog. The closest thing on PlayStation was with Infamous. That was kind of like their superhero or anti-hero kind of character. So having Prototype in our catalog for Xbox would be a nice get. Having something like Singularity would also be a nice get. Like there's a lot of different titles that Activision owns that, you know, I'm pretty sure, much like we've heard Sarah and even Phil say, that they're looking at some of those older games, whether it's things like Hexen or things like, you know, not Rock Band, the other one, but when it comes to a lot of those
Hero.
Guitar Hero,
yeah.
With a lot of those games, it's going to take some time before we actually hear, you know, any news as far as them working on those. But in the meantime, bring in those titles, even like the back and forth we saw on socials for Hasbro when it came to the Transformers titles, and those, you know, now being not too far off from being, you know, released back into the service or released into Game Pass and things, is going to be a huge step. I know a lot of people are probably like, well, they're older games. I already either own them or I played them, beat them, don't want to revisit them, and that's fine. But for those that either may have missed out or have a certain affection for those games, this could be the opportunity to kind of plant the seed for Xbox to look at either bringing them back in new forms or revisiting some of those series and things. But it's been a long time coming, but it's better late than never. And hopefully at this point, with things like frame boost, HDR, and all those other features that they've had, I think that'll be the big, you know, surprise and big plus in the waiting game. And then from there, we'll hear if there's any future announcements of revisiting those IPs.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, they have so many IP. First of all, Phil Spencer himself, besides mentioning Hexen, right? That's a game for him. He's a Hexen guy. But he mentioned Guitar Hero. I don't think, Fuzzy and Korkenstein and chat, that you mention it and there's just nothing to it. I just mentioned, you know, just for shits and giggles, let's Guitar Hero. You know, it's kind of like when Phil does a like an interview in front of his shelf. He's doing that on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's for me, it's just one of those things that I think needs to come back in a big way. I like the idea of playing older games. I think that when you can actually say, gentlemen, hey, we own Activision and Blizzard, well, you got to bring those games back. You just have to. So I don't know.
Boom. I do want to say, you guys bring a good point up about the contracts. Even let's say Sony did money hat this, and you know, it's something that, where's the Game Pass clause? Game Pass didn't exist back then. There's nothing there to stop them from bringing to Game Pass like they did with Resident Evil 7, where I think it was a 7-year or something ridiculous like that, like no Game Pass clause. There's none for those games because that didn't exist.